Good morning. I hope you like that little visit with the fish really quick. I wanted to do the talking version of this video, the intro outside, so I could have the bushes in the background. But the mosquitoes are so bad outside. Even when I sprayed myself down, they were just like 20 of them all swarming around me. I just couldn't deal with it. So you have to see the background inside my house. So making dog food for your dog, I think, is way better than buying commercial kibble dog food. And I don't want to get into the whole debate about it. I will put some links in the description below that you can research for yourself. Okay, but I've been feeding Cookie my own version of a dog food for over 5 years, and her blood work is perfect and her health is amazing. So you know, her teeth are clean, she doesn't have bad breath, she doesn't have a body odor, her poops are always perfect. Her poop doesn't even stink that bad, unless she gets into something she wasn't supposed to. So I used to buy a lot of meats for her, you know, actual cuts of meat, with using very little ground meat. But with the pricing of meats lately, I've had to resort to using some ground meats. So I rotate between beef, chicken, and turkey. Sometimes I will do like a beef turkey combo, but I usually make up batches of her food. One will be beef, one will be turkey, then one will be chicken. You know, so I'll make up the beef. When it's gone, I'll make up a turkey, and so on. I don't have a set recipe, but I do have a formula that I do try to follow, but I'll be honest with you, it is a very rough formula. I'm not particular about the exact amounts. If sometimes a stew is too much of one thing and the next time it's not enough, it's okay, because it all balances out. I also do give her some supplements to help fill in any nutritional holes that she may be having. I give her different supplements to help her with her joint health, because she's a very active, athletic dog, and some supplements to help her with her back, because she does have arthritis in her back that was caused by an injury from a large dog body slamming her and damaging her. So she does get some supplements for some different things. So the formula I kind of follow is roughly 75% meat and 25% vegetables. And of the meat, about 10% of it should be organ meat. So I have tried to feed Cookie raw meats, and she doesn't seem to do as well on it as a lightly cooked diet. So the meats I use, I do lightly cook them. The organs are raw, but they are a dehydrated meat. Now, I used to buy beef organs from a farm, and I would lightly cook them, but that farm closed up, and I had to find another source for good organ meats. And I use Farmhounds online. Their organs are all dehydrated, so I use those. And it's a little bit more per pound than what I used to buy at the farm, but it's actually easier for me because I don't have to do any prep work. I just break them up and throw them in, and it's saving the time, and not having to cook something like kidney or spleen in my kitchen is amazing, because when you cook kidney, the whole town can smell it. It's disgusting. I forgot what else I was going to say. Oh, so Cookie does get some raw meats, but in the form of freeze-dried meats. So like freeze-dried raw treats and stuff like that she does get. But with her stews that I make for her, it's lightly cooked. Now, with the veggies, some of the veggies I will do raw. Some of the veggies I will steam them. but then all the veggies get mixed together and they get pureed. Okay, so if you're going to cook for your dog, the vegetables should be pureed to help them digest it. The only supplement that I add to her actual stew is a calcium supplement that I make from eggshells. So what I do is about once every 2 or 3 weeks, I will make up a big batch of stew. I put it into little containers. That each container is one portion, one meal. I fill the containers up, I put them in the freezer, and then I put a couple of them in the refrigerator to start defrosting, and then the day that it's fed, I just plop the container in a dish of very warm water just to warm it up. And we keep changing out the water just to warm it up so that it becomes hot, but I don't want to heat it up on the stove or cook it again. So we just put the container in some warm water, and that's how we feed her. Now, a note on pricing. I used to buy like a mixture of ground beef and different cuts of steak and things like that, and even with the chicken, I would buy like chicken breast, chicken thighs, and ground chicken, and turkey, same thing. You know, I'd buy turkey breast, turkey thighs if you can find them, and ground turkey, and that's how I would do the meats. And I always bake her meats at a low temperature, except for the ground beef. I find that if you bake the ground beef, the fat doesn't come out of it as well as if you boil it. So when I do ground beef, I do gently boil it for a little while. With the pricing of meats going up so high, I'm finding I have to use more ground meat. But I always buy her grass-fed, free-range meats, organic. Same thing with the vegetables, always organic. It is getting a little bit more expensive, but overall, even cooking for her is still, I think, cheaper than buying a good dog food. But I'm going to tell you, I don't think that there's any good commercially made dog foods out there. The few that I do buy Ziwi Peak dog food, but I don't use it as a dog food. I use it as training treats. And when you compare the price of their dog food to what I make, I think mine's probably cheaper. So if you think about it, now, we bought chicken yesterday at Costco. Breasts and thighs, I couldn't believe it, were the same price. Thighs should have been cheaper. But the breasts and thighs were both $6 a pound. That's expensive for chicken. I remember you could buy chicken for $3 a pound. Now, we can still get ground chicken and ground turkey for under $4 a pound. So that's why I've been using a lot more ground lately, just to kind of help with that. But even paying $6 a pound, when you add in your veggies and everything, you're maybe paid $5 a pound for this food. Maybe even less than that. And that's for a wet food. So I want you to go in a grocery store and look at wet foods, like canned foods. You can't compare it to kibble because all the water, which is weight, has been removed. But if you look at canned foods, look at the price per pound of canned foods in a grocery store. And then you tell me if me paying $4 a pound. So if I had bought all ground turkey, it would have been like $3.50 a pound. Plus you're adding in your vegetables. So it's actually probably like $2.50, $3 a pound. $3 a pound for a really, really good, healthy food. I can't understand why people don't want to cook for their dogs. I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to say to you guys. And keep in mind too, you should always rotate your meats and rotate your vegetables. Don't use the same ones all the time. I can't remember what else I wanted to say. Well, let's get to it. I'll show you. I'll show you how I make food for Cookie. One thing I forgot to mention is that when you cook meats, you should drain the fat off. Okay, dogs can have raw fat, but cooked fat is hard for them to digest, and too much of it can lead to pancreatitis. So whenever I cook meats, whether I bake them, boil them, or whatever, You drain the juices off, put it in the refrigerator overnight, and then scrape off all the fat and throw it away. So here is all the juices from all my chicken last night. I took all the chicken out of the pans, put them in a cut them all up in little pieces, put them in a container. I'll show you that later. And this is poured all the juice into this big bowl. And now we're going to scrape off the fat and throw the fat away. You do this with any of the meats that you cook for your dog. So all this is going to get tossed. Now if I was making chicken soup for us humans, I'd probably leave some of this fat in for flavor, but for the dog, you don't want them having all that. And beef fat usually comes off in a big solid chunk, but the chicken fat is kind of gooey like this. It's gross. Yep, you don't want to give all that to your dog. I also want to talk to you a little bit about whether or not you should buy boneless, skinless meat or buy it with the bone in. Now, I have purchased whole turkeys, looked at the price per pound, and cooked them, taken every little tiny bit of meat off of them, and weighed it, and weighed the bones and the skin and things that you're not going to feed to your dog. Now, I do once in a while still buy bone-in meats so that I can use the bones to make bone broth, which is great for your dog. But when I'm just making stew, I buy boneless, skinless, because when you look at what you're paying per pound, like in a whole, let's say for example again, a whole turkey, and how much actual meat you get out of it, and the amount of time and work to get the meat off the bone, yeah, it's worth it to me to buy boneless, skinless meat. I think it's actually cheaper, and you don't have all the hassle of all that prep work. It's so much easier. So yeah, I buy boneless, skinless. Unless I want the bones to make bone broth. But here is what I call chicken jello. This is all the juices from the chicken. The fat's been removed. And you have this glorious jello. Look at that. Oh yeah, that is so good for your dog. So that will get put back into her stew. It's good stuff. It's good for their stomach. It's all around good for them. So yeah. Chicken jello. That is how jello is made, by the way, is with this kind of stuff. So if you're a vegetarian and you're eating jello. So here's another little interesting bit is, I'm sorry about the light, but I can't do anything about where the light is in my kitchen. When I do the vegetables, I write everything down. I have a copy of every recipe I've ever made for cookies since I've started cooking for her. I keep them all in a notebook. And I will write down like 1 cup of veggies, but it's not really like a measured cup. It's sometimes I just kind of eyeball it with my hands, but you'll see. And you know, with each one that I add in, I do have to stop and write it down, because I write down all of them. So be patient with me. This is my first time doing a cooking video. No, actually it's my second. I did one on popcorn one time, but that's easy. This is a little bit more complicated. So, okay, let's get ready here. And so here is my pot that will be steaming vegetables in, and on the side I have a stainless steel bowl for the veggies that I will leave as raw. And get my cup, measuring cup, sort of cup. Okay, I always add some fresh ginger to cookie stews. Now all these veggies are all frozen. Everything's in the freezer in Ziploc bags. We're gonna add to this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 8 slices of some raw ginger. That will get steamed and pureed with all the veggies. So now you'll see what I mean when I say kind of loosely measured. I'm gonna go 2 cups of kale to be cooked. In the other bowl, I'm going to do like 1.5 cups to be raw. And again, I buy bagged frozen veggies. Some of them I buy fresh. That was fresh in the salad section. I just throw it in the freezer. So that was 2 cups of the kale. Okay, and I do, when I write my list out, I don't know if you can see that, I write down what's raw and what's cooked. Okay, what do we have in here? Here is some red cabbage. Yeah, let's do, I don't know, that looks like about a cup. Red cabbage. I'll write that down, 1 cup red cabbage. I like when my husband is here and can write everything down for me. It's a little easier for me. Okay, here we have some mulberries that I picked off my mulberry tree last year. Those are going to go in the raw bowl. And it's about 1/2 cup of mulberries. For those of you that don't know, mulberries are actually healthier for you than blueberries. Everybody toots about blueberries. Mulberries are better for you. Okay, in here we have some broccoli. Let's see, that was, yeah, it was about a cup of broccoli. Here we are adding in some organic green beans. Since they don't fit in the cup that well, we just eyeball it. This looks like about 1. Yeah, it's probably about 2 cups. Green beans. Here's something you probably don't think of feeding to your dog at night. Artichoke hearts. I'll do a cup of artichoke hearts. Okay, we're going to do celery. I'm not going to measure by cups. I'm going to do by how many stalks I'm going to put in. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like 10 stalks of celery. That sounds good. Now, we buy bok choy and fennel a lot, and we always end up cutting the ends off the fennel and of the bok choy, and I throw the little ends, like this is the end of some bok choy. We throw it in a little bag and we throw it in cookie stew. When we buy the fennel bulbs, you cut off the end and the outside layer goes into this bag for cookies. This is kind of like a mixed bag of fennel and bok choy. It's got some carrot tops in there too, which is funny. So we're gonna do, and it's about a cup. It's probably about 2 cups of bok choy fennel mixture. Now here comes some really good stuff. This is parsley. I'm gonna do that much. I don't know. It's probably about a cup. See if we can get that to fit in there. And this is red dandelion. All those dandelions you guys kill in your yard, stop doing that. Pick them and feed them to your dog. So this one I'm going to do, how much do I want to do with this? Let's do about a cup of this too. Right. A little more than a cup. I'm going to take some of this just a little bit of this out and put it into the raw pot, because this pot's getting really, really full. Put a little parsley in there too. So it'll be raw. All right, I think that's good. You got more than enough in there. Let's see. And I'm gonna put some fresh arugula into the raw bowl. You know, handful, probably about a cup. Throw that in there. That'll be raw. Alright, so I'm going to add just a little bit of water to the bottom of this so that they can kind of steam. You don't want to add too much water. It'll make it too soupy or stew. So I just put a little bit of water in there. And yes, I do use bottled water for my dog too. Our tap water is disgusting. She doesn't need all that chlorine and fluoride in her body, so we feed bottled water to our dog. Okay, now we're going to start it simmering. Now, some other things that I do add in. These are ground organic raw pumpkin seeds. You're going to add half a cup this time. No, I'll just dump it in there and grind up some more. Alright, so it was a half cup pumpkin seeds. I also do add some, I get either ground flaxseed or flaxseed meal, whatever is on sale, whatever I can get that's organic. I'm going to add some of that to this too. We're going to add I think just a quarter cup. And then I'm going to add some organic chia seeds as well. And we'll do a quarter cup of those too. Those all get thrown in the raw bowl. Cup of chia, and now we need our calcium supplement. Okay, so making the calcium supplement from eggshells, this is where you're going to get a lot of conflicting information about how to make it and how much of it to use. So I get eggs from a farm. They are truly free-range, cage-free eggs. They are considered organic because they are on an organic farm. But they're not considered vegetarian fed. I don't think chickens should be vegetarian fed. Insects should be a part of your chicken's diet. So I get the eggshells. Whenever we cook any eggs for ourselves, I rinse the shells, let them dry, and I throw them in the refrigerator to have a big bowl of them, and then I grind them up. And then once I grind them up, I store it in the freezer. Information on how much eggshell calcium you should be using in your dog's meals ranges anywhere from half a teaspoon to a teaspoon per pound of food or per pound of meat. A lot of conflicting information out there with that. I checked with my holistic vet on what I do, and he's very happy with it, and her calcium levels in her blood are always perfectly normal, and we get her blood checked twice a year. So what I do with my eggshell calcium, I do half a teaspoon per pound of meat. So this particular recipe is going to have about 18 pounds of meat with the meat I bought and with the organ meats. That's a rough estimate because I don't weigh it after I've cooked it. I go by the pre-cooked weight, and of course fats are removed and things, but I just do this as my safety margin. So this particular recipe is going to get 9 teaspoons of my eggshell calcium. I don't add calcium based on the vegetables I use because a lot of the vegetables I use are high in calcium. As well as I add, you know, chia seeds and things like that. So, okay. Well, that's what I'm good. That's what I'm going to add in. I'm going to add in 9 of these. So there's my raw bowl with the 9. I ended up putting 10 teaspoons in it. One to grow on, I thought, after I measured out the 9. You can also use seaweed calcium. I have used seaweed calcium for her in the past, but my holistic vet likes the eggshell calcium better, and it's cheap because I don't have to buy it, because we're buying eggs for us. Another note on that too is when I'm not saving the shells to make calcium for her stew, when I cook eggs for us, you know that membrane on the inside of the shell, I will actually peel that membrane off and feed it to the dog. Eggshell membrane. People buy supplements made from eggshell membrane, and you're getting it for free whenever you buy eggs. So think about that. Okay, here's my steamed vegetables. What I do is I bring the little bit of water that's in there to a boil, and then I turn it down, let it simmer for 20 minutes maybe until I can stick a fork in them easily. And then I just blend them up with my little stick blender. Use pureeing them helps the dog digest them a little bit better, makes their nutrients a little bit more bioavailable. Some of the vegetables that I'd like to use that I didn't use in this particular stew just because I ran out is I like to also use asparagus. That's really good for dogs. Give them asparagus. In fact, sometimes I keep asparagus sticks in the freezer and just give her one as a treat, or keep them in the refrigerator and give her one as a treat. So now I'm adding in my raw ingredients, and we're going to puree these up. So asparagus I like to use. Sometimes I use some canned pumpkins, but I used to use sweet potatoes and stuff like that, and I think sweet potatoes in moderation are still okay, but they're a little high in carbs. But you don't see me using anything like peas, no beans, no potatoes. Lectins and carbs are way too high, and the dog really doesn't need them. And I apologize for the background noise. I've got my food dehydrator sitting right next to me with peaches in it, and the air conditioner is going, so it's a little bit noisy in here with the background noise. Now it's going to get really noisy as I puree this up. I'm going to move it a little over this way. And if there's not enough liquid in here for it to puree easily, I'll add some of that chicken jello to it. That will help. Oop, I'm having a phone malfunction. Hold on. Okay. My stand had loosened up somehow, and it was falling. Some of the chicken jello to this, just to loosen it up a little bit. It's a little hard to puree. So we'll just add a little bit of this to it, make it a little easier to puree. I spilled some on the floor, Cookie. Come get it. Right here. Look around there. You'll find it. It'll just add a little bit more fluid to it. Puree. One thing I forgot to do is I forgot to cut up the celery. I just threw it in there, the whole stalks. It's better if you cut the celery up into little pieces, because what happens is when you puree it, you get these strings from the celery, and while that's okay, sometimes they come out in her poop like that, and it makes it hard for her to expel the strings, and the poop will be hanging. So I meant to cut the celery up before I put it in here, but videoing, I was kind of distracted by all of that and forgot to cut them up. So that's okay. You might just have to help her sometimes. We're going to try to blend them up a little bit more. They also, the strings also get stuck around the blade shaft of the stick blender. It's hard to cut them all off. We're just going to blend a little bit more. It looks pretty gross, doesn't it? Okay, our vegetable mixture is done. What I'll do at this point now is I'll mix it in with the meats, and if it looks like it's not enough veggies, I might just throw in a couple handfuls of, you know, spring mix or arugula or whatever I have in the house. Not puree it, just throw a couple handfuls in, which is, it's okay. But the majority of it, I like to have it steamed and pureed. I still see some of those celery strings in there, but that's okay. Alright, let's mix it up with the meat. Okay, here's my great big mixing pot. And my spoons. Okay, this is pre-cooked weight 4.5 pounds of chicken breast. Let Cookie look out the container. Just breaking it up a little bit. Pour in some veggie mix. Toss it around a little bit. It's bad you can't see inside there. See that? And this will be all human edible. Well, I'm not so sure about the eggshell calcium. You should eat that, but once I put the raw organs in it, you definitely can eat it. But okay, now we're going to add some more chicken and chicken jello. So here's the, I don't know, I guess it was about 12 pounds of chicken thigh meat. I baked it and then just tore it up with my hands while it was still warm. If you let it get cold, it's harder to pull apart and you have to cut it. If you do it while it's still warm, it's easier to cut apart. Of course, it's cold now, so it's hard to mix. Here you go, Cookie. Look out that container. That's why I put the glove on. Sometimes it's easier to just mix it by hand. Spoon. Okay, rest of our vegetable mixture is going in. You want to lick this pot too? Should lick that one too. So you can get a look at that. I'm having a hard time showing that to you. There you go. I had to change the angle of the camera so you can see that. I think this is going to be a good amount of veggies for this amount of meat though. I'm going to add some of that chicken jello to it. These people that do these cooking videos online must have, like, I don't know, 6 cameras around their kitchen showing you all these different angles, and they've got these great editing programs, and they have cameramen to help them make it all look cool. It's just me and my phone, so it's not the prettiest video, but hopefully the information is good and will help you make some. Yeah, this vegetable amount is good for this meat. I don't need to add anything more to it. This is good. We're going to add some of this. Probably not going to use all this. Save some for. So if you have some of this chicken jello left over, put it in, freeze it in ice cube trays. And then whenever your dog has some GI issues, you can fast them for 24 hours and then feed them the chicken jello. And it'll really help their gut to heal. batch of stew. I call it stew, but this one's going to be very thick. It's not going to be, sometimes I make them where they're very brothy, like a stew, like a thick soup. This one's not going to be that way. This one's very thick. And that's okay too. You change it up. It's not, so I want you to remember that when you do this, don't feed the same recipe to your dog every time. You have to change it up. Variety is key. Change the meats, change the protein sources, change the vegetables. Even if you have supplements that you use, that you buy, you know, in a store or online for your dog, you should change brands every once in a while. You shouldn't use the same brand all the time. Now listen, I have some brands that I really love that I use all the time, but even with them, every once in a while, I take a break from them. I'll try something different, and then I always go back to them because they're tried and true and I trust them. But it's a good idea to just, you know, change things up once in a while. Also, this diet, some people might say is not complete. It's lacking in this, it's lacking in that, but you have to remember too that I give my dog different supplements, but not supplements like powdered supplements, supplements in the form of food. In other words, like a couple times a month, she gets sardines mixed, you know, thrown on top of her dinner. That I consider a supplement. I give her the sardines because it's good omega 3 fats. It's calcium in the bones. I feed her freeze-dried mussels as treats, but that's also, you know, a natural supplement. It's good for her joints. She also gets things like chlorella and spirulina pretty regularly. Those are for omega-3 fats and for natural detoxing of the body. So there's different supplements that I give my dog, but some of them take the form of actual foods. You know, because their bodies will assimilate that much better than a synthetic vitamin. I'm going to add a little bit more of this chicken jello here. I might end up adding all that chicken jello. Let me just go ahead and plop it all in here. I'm going to give Cookie the bowl to look out. You want to look out this bowl too? Look at that. Alright, now I'll put it into containers, add the organs, stick it in the freezer, and like I was explaining, then I take, here, I'll show you. These are the containers I use. They hold about 1.25 cups worth of food. Weight-wise, I'm not really sure what it is. I don't think I've ever really weighed them. So I just do it by volume. I fill them up, put the lids on, put it in the freezer, but then I keep like 3 days worth in the refrigerator so that they can start to thaw out. And then on the day of feeding, I just take that container and I set it inside. I fill this with hot water and set the container inside of it, and just when the water cools down, dump it and put more hot water. And I usually only have to do that about 3 times. And then the food inside the little container is warm to hot. And that's when she gets it. All right, I'm ready to put this in their containers. Okay, I'm having a hard time getting a good angle where you can see really good. This is the best I could do. I hope it's okay. So I've got some containers out, and I'm going to put a little glob in each one. And like I said, I actually don't kind of measure this by weight or volume or anything. I just kind of fills the container. If the recipe came out soupier, I would fill them up more. This is a very thick recipe, so I'm not filling up as much, you know, I'm not filling them up to the top. If it was a more liquidy recipe, I would fill it up to the top. This is a very robust food, so it doesn't need to get filled up all the way to the top. I mean, think about it. If it was more of a stew, it'd be filled up to the top, but all those open areas would just be water. And that's okay. Well, not water, but broth, we'll say. It would be liquid, but with little bits of meat and nutrition in it. So, and if some of them are a little bit more full and some are less full, that's okay too. Because she doesn't have to have the same exact amount every day. You don't worry so much about balancing your dog's diet every day. You worry about balancing it over time, you know, over a week or over a month. Maybe a week is probably better than a month, but either way, you don't have to worry about it being perfect every single day. This is a really, really nice recipe. I'm very happy with the way this came out. This didn't have any ground meat in it, but like I was mentioning earlier, because the price of meat has gotten so high, I'm going to have to start using a lot more ground meat, because ground meat is usually cheaper. So for the organs, like I was talking about before, rather than buying organs and prepping them at home, which is very expensive, smelly, and time consuming, now I buy these guys. Really like them a lot. The organs are technically raw. They've been dehydrated, which is good for Cookie. That works out well for her. And then what I do is I just break up, you know, again, I'm not measuring this, and keeping in mind that this is dried, so if this still had the moisture in it, it would have more bulk. So just keeping that into consideration, I just kind of eyeball and throw a few pieces in each one and hope that it works out that that's the right amount. So far it seems to be working. Too much organs, they may get the runs. So next we're going to add some beef spleen. Really important for your dogs to have organ meats, and I know everybody always does liver all the time, and I do use liver. That was, first one was kidney. I have a little sample pack of liver. I actually have a whole bag of liver too that I will use, but I think it's really important to do things like kidney, spleen, pancreas, you know, organs, and that's something that dogs just, I don't think they get enough of in their diets when they're fed, you know, kibble foods. And if you're doing a homemade cooked or a homemade raw diet, you really need to get your organs in there. And even kibble fed dogs, if you're going to feed them kibble, then you should get organ meats to feed as treats, because they really need to have it in their diet. And I think when the organs, even if they're in the kibble but they're cooked, I think it kills a lot of the nutrition. I really do. So I like doing this, adding it in raw for her. Sometimes I drop a little piece on the floor for her. Okay, I'm going to finish the rest of this up. We'll see how many servings it made. And I have to see if I forgot any points. So I have a friend who's a vet, and he's not, I don't think he likes the fact that I cook for Cookie. He says to me one day, if you're not using a commercial food where they have the nutrition label on the side of the bag, how do you know if your dog is getting enough calories? And I said, well, that's really an easy one. If she gets fat, I cut back on the food, and if she gets too skinny, I give her more food. That's really easy. What I would have asked, if I was concerned about somebody cooking for their dog, was how do you know that their nutritional requirements are being met in the way of vitamins and minerals? And that is why I think it's important to rotate proteins, rotate vegetables, and give some sort of supplementation. I do have a vitamin supplement that I do like from Dr. Peter Tobias called Soul Food. I do use that, and like I said, I've used various different ones. That's kind of my favorite. I go back to it more often than not because when I give it to Cookie, her fur seems shinier. So there's a shout out to Dr. Peter Tobias and his vitamins. If you're interested in that, I can give you a link. Maybe I'll put a link in the description. Here's the vitamins I use for Cookie from Dr. Tobias. I also use his krill oil, and to make sure that Cookie is getting enough healthy fats in her diet, I sometimes also give her a little coconut oil. So the only fats I add that are not already in the meats is a little coconut oil or a little krill oil. But like I said earlier, the cooked fats should be removed. Raw fat, okay, cooked fat, bad. Alright, all my containers are done. This batch made 40 meals, so that will last 20 days. Let me do a little math, see how much it cost me. Okay, so when I did the math, and of course it's approximate, because I don't know exactly how much I spent on the veggies. I just had to kind of guesstimate it a little bit. But it looks like Cookie is costing me about $6 a day to feed. That's with chicken prices being at $6 a pound. When I used to be able to buy them at $3 a pound. Now, if I go to ground meats, which right now we're kind of fluctuating between $3.50 and $4.50 a pound, depending if I'm buying beef, turkey, or chicken, and whether or not I can get it on sale. She's probably costing me between $3 and $5 a day to feed. But that's a good, healthy food that you know it's human grade, you know that it's clean food, you know how it was prepared, you know exactly what's in it. And to me, that is worth a lot. I know kibble is convenient. Canned food is so expensive per pound when you figure it out. And I want you to think about this. If the kibble or the canned food is cheaper per pound than what you and I could buy meat for, you might want to question the quality of the meat that they're using. Okay? So I want you to think about that. I'll put some links in the description to help you too. Okay, Dr. Judy Morgan has a great site. She's got a lot of info. She's got some good supplements on there I do like to use occasionally. Lots of healthy treats. Even some dog food that you could buy and pour into a bowl, and is going to be way better than anything you're going to buy at ShopRite or Stop and Shop or Walmart or whatever. You know, so do what you can, okay? And I hope that helped you, gave you a little idea of it's not that bad cooking for your dog. I do this once or twice a month, depending on the size of the recipe. I cook up the meats one night, put it in the refrigerator, let it sit. The next day I do the vegetables and dish it out. It took a couple hours of my day, but now she has good healthy food that she loves, and I feel good feeding it to her. So have a good day. I hope you enjoyed this. Be blessed. Go play with your dog. Give them a healthy snack to eat today. turned and looked at me, so I was recording her.